This is where we are today at elementary school. Absolutely no mention of God in school. I'm going to tell you what, if I were emperor, God would return with vengeance to schools. There would be no place that you would be allowed to not talk about our God. End of story. Not the Muslim God, not the Jewish God, our God, our creator. Look at this revolting, demonic, anti-white bullshit. Happy Friday. That's the flag of anti-whiteism. Everyone represented there but white male, but heterosexual white males who build the rockets that get caught when they land by the tower. The shit! This kind of thing. This is, if you are healthy, is all the fire and reason you need to supply you the energy to the end of your life in service to white well-being. This is all you need. This is what they're doing to our babies. This is not a selfish complaint like all of the soy goys who are saying to themselves, well, either Jews have made their lives difficult or they anticipate that they will make their lives difficult. And so they're just going to hate on Jews. This is our people. This is what's being done. I don't know any of them. I don't know any of the white kids there. I don't have to. If you're healthy, you know. You know, it was like back in the day when they brought out those X shirts, and the blacks were like, if you know, you know. You're like, what's all the meaning and the definition? They didn't have anything. So they just said, if you know, you know. But what they were kind of alluding to that we're able to articulate because we have that prowess is an identity and a willingness to fight vigorously for it. A peoplehood, a individual well-being by way of your group's well-being. Look at this. Look at this. This is not about protecting individuals who have an attraction for this or an attraction for the same sex or an attraction to both sexes or whatever it is, or a fucking fire hydrant. This is about white erasing our norms, our mores, our ideals. That's what it's all about. And that's the outcome in every single case. I can't. So there you have it. There you have that. What's happening? You go to elementary school. This is what you're getting at elementary school. You go to university. That's what you're getting at university. Well, what are you getting from the anti-whites in your working world? Well, let's hear right now. Behaviors are going to have to change, close quote. BlackRock CEO, anti-white Fink, admits to forcing anti-whiteism on companies.
You now make a point of that's an investment criteria for you.
You really think you're going to defeat this with abstractionizing, with some sort of conservative approach to that makes the ladies in the sewing circle feel terribly comfy, or having a bunch of 100 IQ or 110 IQ Indians coming from India to be your managerial and business owning class? You really think that's going to make this better? You really think complaining about Jews is going to make this better? You know what's problem with Fink here is that he's anti-white. That's the problem with Fink. I wouldn't give a shit about Fink if he was white positive. If he was white positive, I would like him. If he was neutral, it would be nothing. I would be indifferent. Listen to this anti-white pig talk.
Well, behaviors are going to have to change, and this is one thing we're asking companies. You have to force behaviors, and at BlackRock, we are forcing behaviors.
So let's have the conversation. In every single business, so we are not going to be able to remove BlackRock, right? We're not going to be able to remove Larry Fink. We're not going to be able to, but where can we engage? Well, we can engage in our lives, right? You're going to be in Econ 101. You're going to have business majors. You're going to be at your high school. You're going to be at your junior high. You're going to be out in the world at your work. You're going to be around your friends, and you can have conversations about BlackRock and Larry Fink. And if you start to talk about how, well, Larry Fink was born Jewish, so ergo, he should be victimized, everyone is going to look at you like you're scum, because you are. Everyone is going to look at you that way. And you're also insane, because you're not removing anyone. You're not going to do any of that. You're going to complain your whole life because, as a selfish individualist, you think that he or the outcomes have harmed you in some way or might harm you in some way. So fuck you, selfish individualists out there. But if you go into these environments, Econ 101, if you go into your work and you talk about how anti-white BlackRock is, how they are forcing people to be anti-white with their money, you'll get traction. You won't immediately be fired. You'll have family members who will listen to what you have to say, as is empirically demonstrated for decades with the Go Free dialogic. Listen to this anti-white pig.
54% of the incoming class are women. We added 4 more points in terms of diverse employment this year. And what we are doing internally is, if you don't achieve these levels of impact, your compensation could be impacted. Okay.
There you have it. What did we hear at IBM from the Indian anti-white? Indian. What do we hear from him? The exact same verbiage. That as the CEO, Krishna, Arvind Krishna, Hindu from India. That's how he talks. I'm doing an impersonation of him. What did we hear from him? You cannot hire white males. You get bonuses for hiring everybody else. But beyond that, just like Fink just said, for BlackRock's investment, that he penalizes you for hiring white males. If worse comes to worse and you end up having to hire, as a recruiter, a white male, you are economically punished. They take money out of your pay. We watched the video. Go check it out for yourself, of Krishna himself saying it. It's not a group of people. If you want to say it's anti-whiteism is a group of people, it's the white race. Because that's where the responsibility and the onus is for correcting this. That's where anti-whiteism grows from. That's selfish individualism. You know, these people ask, like, you'll have these soy goys show up and they're like, oh yeah, well, where does it come from? And I look at them and I'm like, it comes from you absolute tard, you vegetable. You are where it comes from. That demonstration of that selfish individualism, that is where it comes from. That same mentality right there will demonize me for some aspect of my white ethnicity. Well, because I'm a Southerner, or because I'm a redneck, or because I'm an American, or I've heard it all. I've heard it all. You can go right now to white sympathetics who are soy goys, haunting Jewish people out there, selfish individualists, to the UK and to Europe, and you can hear them disparage white Americans right now. They're brothers. So what did I say about where it started? Where did it start? Where it is starting every moment of every day until it's remedied. I can't believe, why do I always have to? I guess I'm just going to have to forevermore break things down for you fucking retards out there. I mean, tards, not handicapped people, people who are late to the game. I have to break it down for everybody. When I respond colloquially with your imbecilic language of where did it start, let me just tell you, I'm not talking about there was like a day the egg was laid. And then from there, a day the seed was planted. That's where your ignorant midwit asses are able to think. I am twice your IQ. It is every second of every day of our existence that it is being started. It doesn't have a point in history that you can point back to. That history is then and now and tomorrow forevermore. It is a recreation of the origin every moment. The anti-white soy goys out there who hate on Jews, and they're anti-white because the outcome is anti-whiteism. They are demonstrating that they are the origin of anti-whiteism. When they approach the challenges that we face today that are a consequence of anti-white ideology, and they want to say it's the Jews, or they want to say it's the Democrats, or they want to say it's the Republicans, or they want to say it's the leftists or the wokies, or whatever it is. These are the exact same people that in the exact same breath, with the exact same programming, will condemn me as an American or a Southerner or beneath them, lower than them. Condemning your mother's son on the other side of an invisible line. I take for granted what happens automatically in my head. And then we see all of these absolute idiots out there. So the anti-whiteism that Fink is able to manifest, he's able to put into edicts at BlackRock and investment strategies and penalties for holdings of BlackRock, is a consequence of the anti-white moral imperative, not a consequence of Fink. You can't get rid of Fink and it gets better. You can't get rid of Fink fool and it gets better. You have to address the anti-white moral imperative. If no one in Fink's circles, if nobody they can hire, if none of the companies anymore will carry out anti-white outcomes, Fink will stop being anti-white. Because he won't be able to be. These people they're too dumb, and I don't know, their heroes have to be taken from them, I guess. Because we're suffering their stupidity. So there you have it. This is anti-whiteism. You can give this guy the face of an optimist. Blank it out. Blank it out. All that matters is that if you want this to end, all that matters is that he's anti-white. If you want our children to stop being subjected to total white erasure of our norms and values, to being introduced to sexuality so that the Tim Walls out there, if this is the case, can more easily goad them and talk them into sex with adults. If you want to put an end to that, then you've got to see this guy as an optimist-faced anti-white. And then we see the Soy Goying of Lily Gaddis. So what have the Jew haters, the multiracial Jew hating movement, what have they done again? I've been telling you this as long as you've been here. As long as you've been here, I've been telling you that these multiracial anti-Jewish movement is the AIDS of the white race. We can't defend ourselves. We are the most defenseless race on the planet. We don't have a people because of the AIDS that is multiracial, anti-Jew movement behavior individuals, because they infiltrate and destroy everything. I have seen it many times. I have watched many times as clubs, as groups, big groups that you would even know if I mentioned them, start off with some particular focus, maybe on some particular aspect of the white race or our history or what have you. And then these shadow Jews infiltrate, they show up, and they usurp. And they immediately say that, well, these Jew haters, you're not talking about Jews? Well, look here, there's a successful Jew here or a successful Jew there. And they have this long list of successful Jews. You know what's interesting about the long list? It's actually a testament to the power of working as a people. You take the Jewish community and a tiny percentage of every Western country, and they have massive success. Massive success. A testament to the power of seeking individual well-being by way of your group's well-being. You know what? If you seek hard enough with tzedakah for the well-being of your people, then it's amazing when you show up at the family gathering and everybody at the family gathering is like an owner of CBS and a dean at this university and the president of an American football team and the owner of a media empire. And it's just like everybody at the family is doing well. That doesn't make them evil. That makes the strategy they employ genius. If you seek hard enough for your individual well-being by the way of your group's well-being, why, by God, you might end up being one of those lowly people in the community who gets the six-figure job at the bottom of the six-figure job totem pole. Imagine that. So these shadow Jews, again, people who aren't Jewish, people who hate Jews, show up at organizations and they do, and I'm going to be talking about what happened to Lily Gaddis. That has happened, and you all have seen this happen many times over the past few years. My prediction come true again and again and again and again. They show up and they say, look at this list of successful Jews. They're all evil. Why aren't you talking about them? Are you working for them? And the kind of people who think this way are the kind of people who are willing to say the most deranged traducement. Like there is no lie. There is no calumny. There is no aspersion that is too false, too harebrained, too wild, too gross for them to say about you if you won't begin slandering Jews with them. That's the kind of people they are. This is why they don't understand, why the normal white world won't have anything to do with them. This is why they don't understand. They're like, well, of course you could just go to the family again. Of course you can just go to work. They never do. But they say you could just go to work and just start telling them. White people don't want to hear it. So what they do then is when there isn't capitulation right away, they begin spreading rumors. Oh, a pedophile. Oh, thief. Oh, stole the funds of the group. Oh, whatever it is. Oh, worked in law enforcement. Brother-in-law's law enforcement. They'll say anything. And before you know it, the entire objective of the group is usurped and turned into a destruction of the white race. It never brings harm to Jewish people. Never. Except when some crazy decides that they're going to head out and harm a bunch of innocent Jewish people at like a synagogue somewhere. But as far as Jewish power and Jewish wealth, it never harms any of it. Any of it. It destroys the lives of white people. How many white people do we have to see who are taken in by these soy goys and then end up in prison. They lose their family. They lose the right to even rear their children. How many times do we have to see this? These fucking losers do this. Well, they did it to Lily Gaddis. They did it to Lily Gaddis. You have been present when several people, we could think of Jody Kay, who's still around. Jody Kay showed up in the UK. She returned from living in Spain or whatever it was with what I'm told was a non-white boyfriend. Maybe that's not true though, so I'm not saying it's true. But she came home to her mother England. I would call it Father England. But she came home and she saw I was being destroyed. And so the spirit of the West in her said, no. The morality sat up and said, no, you can't do that. You can't allow this. You got to fight against it. Demonstrating that she was most healthy and moral. She got to hear from us and white well-being, and she got to hear from her compatriots about hating Jews. Well, the pressure of the soy goys won her over. She lost her job, her career, family troubles. She wrote about all of it. Now there's nowhere to go. When you hit rock bottom and you're with the rest of the people in the basement, then what do? You just got to continue hanging out with them. What about Daughter of Albion, who first showed up with her content creation and was an abstractionist hardcore? She got to talk to us. She got to talk to her fellow compatriots over there. And she started coming around to white positivity and then absorbed into the pressure tactics of the soy goys, the shadow Jews, and immediately start saying all of this and then wrapped up in their disgusting intrigues and ends up orbiting right out. Also very intelligent, Jody Kay, musically talented and etc. Daughter of Albion, very well read, could have done a sweet disposition, could have done wonderful things for white positivity around the world. Instead, she's like, nah, I'm out of here. This place is degenerate as all shit. Boom, there she goes. Lost another one. Anybody remember my co-host? Anybody remember my co-host? Who in iterations of trying to stay, of trying to put up with the endless attacks, eventually has to leave because of the soy goys, because of the Jewish hatred. Such an affront and to his instincts, to his biospirit. What about the community that he was trying to be a part of? An artistic community, you remember. And there was a tug of war for the artistic community and where it would end up siding with, what community would it go? And Jared George said, oh no, they have gone. They have gone to the Jew-hating, Nazi-worshipping side. And so I will have nothing to do with him, and he's leaving. And I had to cut ties with him. I wish Jeff best, but what ended up happening? We had a very talented musician. Anybody remember Olivia Key? Very talented musician, a singer, wonderful voice, sang beautiful songs, gave me a testimonial, which I will share. I still have it. When she came on with the White Art Collective over there on PWR, a wonderful testimonial to white well-being. But what ended up happening? Well, all of these artists went that direction, specifically aligning in particular with the NJP, which ended up falling apart exactly as I said it would, and of the leadership said by the smartest guy close to them that not only could they not lead the white race to victory, they couldn't lead their dog to take a shit in the woods. They stole a bunch of money. And once again, another entity. Well, Olivia wanting to have friends, artistic friends, wanting to have people to perform music with. And then targeted by the hardcore balaclava wearing anti-whites, doxxed, and now gone. How many do we have to witness? Talented people. I've said this so many times. Good people, normal people, connected people, resourced people, moneyed people show up and then driven off by these Jew-hating pieces of shit. How many times do you got to witness it? People run off, people absorbed, organizations destroyed. Folks, if there is, I'm going to say this very clearly. No foreign country wants the white race to come together. No country outside of any of our countries, including the other Western countries, because they're all dominated by anti-whites, but very specifically, China, Russia, Iran, North Korea, Israel, none of them want the white race to have pride. None of them want the white race to see itself and its identity as its core. None of them want white people viewing their individual well-being by way of the group well-being, because all of them know that that would wildly empower their geopolitical neighbor. And even when, friend, it's not geopolitically what you want to happen. So, who is financing the anti-Jews in America, in the UK, in Germany? Israel, China, Iran. They are the people financing them. If there's any group out there, it's those entities. They benefit from this AIDS in our midst. They benefit from pushing the AIDS in the body politic of the white race around the world, because every time white people stand up and say, enough is enough, my people are being harmed, my people are being harmed, they are inundated with the soy goys saying it's all the Jews. Stop focusing on the white race. Start focusing on the Jews. So what happens with Lily Gaddis? What happens with Lily Gaddis is some white female, single mother, attractive woman, and she makes a video. She's trying to get attention for herself because working a 9-to-5, which apparently she had just started doing, was objectionable. So she wanted to find another way to make money. And that was making content. She gets on a stream, baking a cake, talking about how all these guys out there claim that women are marrying for money, dating for money, and probably just a pretext to throw into the video, the conversation, probably, but maybe not. She throws in there that all the guys that she knows are broke ass, and immediately pretty white female, blonde hair, thin build, using this word, and it's getting shared everywhere. You know what I think is also a possibility? You know, if I were Israel, I would probably want to magnify that so that we could steer her into going anti-Jew. I would probably, like, you know how interesting it is that the anti-Jews can talk about the deceptive prowess of the Israelis. They could talk about the former motto, by deception thou shalt do war. Remember that one? They could talk about that, and they can give examples like pagers blowing up and then walkie-talkies blowing up. But then it's impossible that the Israelis would ever finance anti-Jew sentiment to keep the white race from uniting. That's impossible. They would never do that. Even though it's been quarantined in the ghettos, trafficked by the losers, and destroys every healthy endeavor for generations. You can think even about the Birchers. They were undermined. The Birchers, 1 million members, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of chapters. They were undermined by the anti-Jews. It's fascinating, isn't it? Fascinating. But anyhow, she ends up using this word. Followership goes up to hundreds of thousands on several platforms. And she then begins sort of a tour. And where does she tour immediately? Well, she tours the Fuentesians, the branch Fuentesians, because there's a lot of people and there's a lot of money, which is strange, isn't it? A lot of money in anti-Jew activity. Interesting. You would think that with the skill that anti-whites are able to muster, I mean, they can find out who you are and get you fired in a minute. They can almost bankrupt. If it weren't for the billions that Musk has, Twitter would be already bankrupt. So they could bankrupt Twitter. They can find you wherever you are. You can read in history about famous American and British industrialists, German industrialists with factories on numerous continents, and they can crush them everywhere they have a factory. They find you no problem. But somehow they can't find the financiers of the anti-Jew movement. Isn't that weird? Doesn't that make you wonder? The silence about who the financiers are and the money, and it's just amazing. Nobody's ever asking that. It's kind of like the Mossad is at work. By deception, thou shalt do war. But it wouldn't have to be them. Could be CIA. It could be many others. Nobody ever asking and then finding the financiers of this shit. So she ends up heading into Branch Fuentesianville, and they attack the ever-living shit out of Lily Gaddis. She goes on a space held by the Fuentesians, one of the Fuentesians, and several hundred people show up. And what do they say about her? This was months ago, if you all remember. She went to the conference, the Fuentesian conference. They hated on her there. They slandered her there. They ridiculed her there. Nothing directly to her face because they're too cowards. They're too cowardly. They slander the ever-living shit out of her. She goes back home. She gets on a Twitter space with a Fuentesian, several hundred people on that space, where they call her a mud shark. They call her a Jew. And why are they saying these things? They call her ugly. They call her fat. They say that her child is non-white. They say that she slept around, that she had sex with a guy that she had just met at the conference, that she was a whore, that she was they called her a skank. Do any of you remember this? I took a few notes. She ended up rage quitting that Twitter space. Why were they saying this? They said as a single mother, she is the problem. And they called her an e-whore as well, just out trying to make a buck for herself. Now, forget about what you might think about any of the allegations or those positions. Just observe the facts. She wasn't slandering the Jews yet. She hadn't become a soy goy yet. She hadn't become a shadow Jew yet. She hadn't decided that it's all caused by the Jews. It's all the fault of the Jews. And then start tweeting endlessly about the Jews. The Jews are the ultimate evil. This is how they were ostracizing her. They were, by way of this traducement, this calumny, these aspersions, they were destroying her reputation so that she would not be able to function online. She wouldn't be able to make money online. In fact, I told her privately that if she wanted to make a lot of money, she should take a little bit of the edge off. Okay, she said this word, broke ass. Okay, ride that for a little ways and then try to get hired by Big Con Inc. That's where she'll make the most money. Next best thing would be to become her own content creator. But if she does that, and she'll make her way by way of people donating or financial gifts or this sort of thing, paid content, paid for content, paywalls, then she's going to have to endure the attacks of the Fuentesians and other anti-Jews endlessly. And she said, no problem. They're all little bitches. They don't frighten me. And I said, okay, well, they'll put on a lot of pressure and they will attack your reputation. So endless aspersions, endless claims, and the claims growing in number and vulgarity about who she is and what she believes in. Every post just about that she would make, there would be another anti-Jew, another soy goy there with a claim that she's a Fed or working for the cops or she's half Jew or she's full Jew or whatever. What happened? She caved. She went back on the exact same space she had months earlier. They titled the space, "The Return of Lily Gaddis to Discuss Her JQ Awakening." Now, I already knew that this was coming. This is not just a conversation about Lily Gaddis. It is about Lily Gaddis, but it's much bigger because it's the lilies before and it's the lilies to come. This is the AIDS of the white race. How did I know that this was about to happen or had already happened? Lily stopped talking to me. Everyone who falls into Lil Nicky's rings of death stops talking to me. Isn't that fascinating? Not only did she stop talking to me, but my interview, where she interviewed me, was the only interview that she did not promote. She promoted every other interview. An epic conversation about real things benefiting real lives, empirical data, receipts for all of the claims. Not a peep. The platform she's on, they tweeted once about it like they do with the other shows, but her, nothing. Now, what about her other interviews? Lots of magnification from her. In fact, yet again, another new soy goy, I don't know, what's his name, Alex or something like this. she reposted him like, I don't know, like 10 times. So stop talking with me. No more responses to me. And stop interacting with me. And no promotion of our interview on censored.tv. Zero. I knew. I told Kate. I said, she's already caved to the Soy Goys, specifically the Fuentesians, because the Fuentesians, they're the ones who say you can't talk to no white guilt. Isn't it interesting that it's kind of like something the Mossad would do, isn't it? It's kind of like something Israel would do, or maybe China would do, or Iran would do. It's like, okay, so there's a community out there that has a dialogic that smart people can look at and see how it works, that is actually having those victories and showing receipts for it. So we absolutely have to keep our benighted crew over here away from them. We don't want them finding out there's a way to remedy this. We want them just complaining about Jews, things they can't do anything about. Remember, I told you all right out of the CIA handbook what you do to neutralize a movement. Remember, I told you all specifically right out of their handbook, and the CIA are not the only secret agency operating with such knowledge, because it is a natural discovery of investigating, controlling the human animal. Among other things, you keep them focused on things of the past and things they can't control, and speculating about things that they can never know. And then they pedal in place. Then they run in place, not doing shit. This is very infuriating because Lily shows up. She's introduced to white positivity like others. She could center white Westman focus, or she could be Judeo-focused, Judeo-centered in hatred of Jews. And instead of being able to go with the evidence of success, the weight of the smear and the slander and the reputational assassination of the Soy Goys, she has to capitulate if she's going to make a living off of these imbeciles and these impossible to discover financiers of the anti-Jews. Weird, isn't it? It's weird. Just somehow can't find out who they are. You would think with anti-whiteism, and you would think that you take a university like Columbia and you have hardcore anti-whites at the education, in the administration, teaching at the institution, members of the alumni that immediately can flip, and they've got billions of dollars, and immediately they could do whatever they want. And they talk about this anti-Semitism, they call it, and yet they can't find the financiers of it. Kind of odd. Kind of odd. So they have her on this space. And after saying that she was in the same space several months earlier, skank for having unmarried sex, wretched mother, they said, because she's working for a living and going to conferences, and being a single mother makes her a wretched mother. They said her child is non-white, and then as a consequence, she's a mud shark. Had her on the space saying, screaming like, I've only had sex with however many people, called her a whore and an e-whore, said she was a Fed, a Jew, fat and ugly. She ends up rage quitting. She comes back and she says that, oh yeah, it's all the Jews, and then praises Fuentes as the leader of this. What do they say now? That she's thoughtful, that she's reasonable, that she's brave, that she's articulate. Quite an interesting change. The space, and I will play some of it for you in just a moment, was bizarre. And it could be the kind of things that run-of-the-mill soy goys came up with. But it could also be the kind of approach that, the Mossad would come up with, that Israel would come up with. Definitely cult-sounding, the Fuentesians, because it was this really bizarre mix of a struggle session when they had her on. Do you know what that is? In communist China, they had the struggle sessions. You would denounce family members in a group of other communists and say they weren't good commies, they weren't good enough. It was kind of like a westernized version of it, a simpering struggle session. It was bizarre. There was a lot of hand-holding and soft talking like NPR. They were like, literally, I'm not kidding. They were like, we don't hate because we recognize the genetic points of certain people and what they do. I mean, I'm not kidding. It was a very bizarre, hand-holding, cultish-sounding, simpering struggle session that I've ever heard. And I'll play it for you in just a minute. It was literally breathy, like NPR speech. Total hand-holding. But all of the aspersions were gone. What's going to happen to Lily Gaddis? What's the outcome of that? Well, she's going to suffer Ye's law. And I don't know what's in her heart. Lily might be saying to herself that, she doesn't agree with these soy goys, with these Jew haters, but she's not going to be able to make any money online. And she's looking out at the world and she sees people like Hawk Tuah and Call Her Daddy and the kind of money that they are making. So you got Haley Welch, and I don't know the name of the woman who, what was the name of that woman who was the Call Her Daddy? Doesn't matter. But she sees the kind of money they make, and she'd like to get in on that naturally. She would, but more importantly, I think also a part of it is the deep attention that females crave. It is like a disease, in my opinion. I mean, you can look into it for yourself. Like a disease of females, this deep need for attention. And I think the attention, really, we call it attention, but really what it is approval. They have a deep need for approval. And if I had to speculate, it's because of the genetic need for approval. That in far more primitive times, if a female was considered at odds with the tribe, she was thrown to the wild, where she died and didn't produce any more children. So the genes of the girls, of the females who weren't approved of, weren't passed on. So genetically, this deep hunger for approval from the tribe was branded into them. Men, we could be thrown out of a tribe and we could survive. We could start a new tribe, but females, no. In my opinion, of course. Check with CNN. So there's this deep, deep need for approval, and probably ancillary, almost assuredly objectively ancillary, the desire for that money. Don't need no man, anti-white ideology. Here's, by the way, Lily, listen up closely. You will never get a good man becoming a soy goy. You will never get a good man. At some point, you're going to want to have a good guy in your life. Maybe not now. Maybe you're thinking you're going to make big money. And so you don't need no guy. You don't need no man around. And maybe you're drunk on the approval that you're getting across the internet. Maybe you're drunk on that. And so you can't even really think about having a good man in your life. But no good white guy is going to look at a woman's social media and say, oh, it's full of a bunch of Jew hatred and bikini pictures. I want to marry that. So just realize that. So in that sense, Lily is going to suffer Ye's law, but in who knows how many other senses that she will suffer Ye's law. Who is the bigger loser, though? The white race. The Soy Goys actually say in the clip I'm going to share for you exactly what they were after. They're after her followers, which, by the way, still fill up not only with losers, Soy Goy losers, but also normal content creators like that Gunther guy, for example, that have hundreds of thousands and even millions of followers themselves. They look out at some of her tweets and they see an attractive white female saying contradictory things to the establishment. And when they see those tweets, they then magnify her. They retweet her. They interact with her like that Gunther guy did and has. And another guy I just saw the other day. Several million followers. The Fuentesians see that. That's what they were after all along. Imagine now if Lily had gone white positive instead. Imagine if she had gone white positive. And now Gunther, who when he sees the anti-Jew stuff is going to leave. The other guy with the million plus followers, when he sees the anti-Jew stuff, he's going to leave. These people would have been able to stay. A pretty female online, pretty white woman online saying white positive things and having all of these guys show up to want to simp up to her and would be repeating. And then when they would repeat it, all of their followers would be exposed to the white positivity. But no. Are you able to see the scales now in your brain, in your eyes? Instead of this working for the white race's benefit, and as a consequence, Lily's personal benefit and the benefit of her son, instead of that happening, her actions are going to work to the detriment of the white race, the detriment of her personally, and definitely the detriment of her son, who will come of age with an anti-Semitic, hateful mother, and that reputation everywhere. Could have been a hero, decided to be a loser. What the fuck? All right. Let's have a listen real quick. This is the very end. It's only 5 minutes, and I will jump in.
I guess kind of just to get your thoughts on both the prior space, the awakening that has happened between then and now.
Okay, so how's the audio right there? And this is the guy that he said, well, to get your view on the prior space, when we called you a mud shark because you weren't hating Jews, and now since you're having this scintillating awakening, really, I mean, watch the evil of these people.
And some of the things that were discussed here, and if they would.
I turned it down a little bit, Timmy. Brant says the audio sounds gay. It is. Spud says good audio. Listen to this.
Would, prospectively serve as anything that has happened between then and now, and some of the things that were discussed here, and if they would, prospectively serve as alternatives or maybe helpful things from the past that we could use to try and understand how to deal with the awakening that you're having.
how do we deal with the awakening that you're having? What we really want to talk about. If you listen to this space, it is bizarre. No, you don't even have to listen to the whole thing.
Well, I would just say I'm kind of an example of, how middle America is right now. There's been like the trailblazers in this whole.
Okay, who are the trailblazers in anti-Jew sentiment? Do I need to start over with the list? Do I need to include a bunch more that I didn't even include because I was just speaking from the cuff? I mean, we can go all the way back to William Dudley Pele and the Silver Legion. Why don't you look him up? There are so many more who have been out in the world. Henry Ford, didn't mention him, have been out in the world talking about the Jews. And so who do these people, though, like Witless Witzke, who's been taken in, too, by she's a Fuentesian. They all say the world began with Lil Nicky. Folks, if this is not, how could this not be a Mossad operation? Are you fucking kidding me? These people are hardcore brain poisoned. Listen to Lily right now. This is the obeisance that they have to show to get into the good graces of these circles. Again, probably Mossad-run circles. And part of it includes, don't talk to the no white guilt guy anymore.
Space. I think probably Nick Fuentes was one of the first, and then
Nick Fuentes, one of the first.
Kind of example of, how middle America is right now. There's been like the trailblazers in this whole space. I think probably Nick Fuentes was one of the first, and then other people started picking it up,
Nick Fuentes, trailblazer on hating the Jews. And then other people started picking it up. It is a bizarre psychological anti-white op, psyop, where you have to come in and they don't even mention people who are still alive, like Mark Collett or David Duke, or they didn't. It's just like, no, it started with Lil Nicky. Talk about a successful Israeli operation or Chinese operation.
And then it became a little bit more mainstream and whatever. And so, yeah, I want to appreciate like the trailblazers, the ones that talked about this kind of stuff before it was cool, before it was cool.
You can go back on Witzke's timeline and find the exact same words. By the way, the Little Nicky environment, the woman who brought her in, what's the woman who brought her in? Okay, what's the woman who brought her in? She's a Jew. This Little Nicky, these Little Nicky circles are full of self-hating Jews, or at least what present as self-hating Jews. Full of non-whites of various races. But I think it's probably most shockingly that there are so many Jews. Brittany. So Brittany, thank you, is the woman who brought Lily Gaddis in, who finally went and talked by Lily Gaddis's words. But mark what I'm saying. It's the pressure of the endless reputational attacks by these bastards that did it. She was just having a conversation with Brittany, who happens to be a Jew, who's just saying, you know what, come on in, hate the Jews with us.
Was like acceptable to talk about, because those are the ones with bravery and courage and whatever. But
your bravery and courage,
I would say, your average person is coming around to this slowly but surely, because they're disillusioned, they're disenfranchised, they're over with the two-party system. I mean,
no one is coming around to Jew hatred. And there is there's no vein, there's no path to removing Jews from America or the West. Not even the remotest of paths. There's nothing possible. more white people would fight you than would be on your side without, and I'm not even talking about white people who worship Jews, the Judeo-centric white people who worship Jews, not even talking about them. Ordinary white people.
I think we're all very disillusioned with the two-party system. The Republicans are, it's just two wings of the same bird ultimately at this point. So I do think there's hope. I think people are starting to wake up, but the way things are ramping up, I think we have to be really careful in falling into maybe the trap that the elites, the Zionists, whoever are setting, because I think they want us to,
You see, she's trying to be a little careful there. And you'll hear this coming out in her voice.
act rashly, because why else are they poking the bear? I think that's what we've been seeing a lot lately, is them just trying to get people angry. They've been trying to get people riled up, but we have to take our time, because middle America is not ready for that, right?
So what she's saying here, if you're not following, you didn't hear before, so might not make total sense. These people on this space, and especially as soon as she leaves, when she's on the Fuentesian holding the space, it doesn't really, he talks like this, and he's like, we're just rational people trying to come together to talk about rational things. And so he doesn't let some folks talk that are a little bit more on edge about Jewish people and getting rid of them. Okay, getting rid of them. But they talk after she goes. We're not going to listen through all of that. You can listen to it. But she was already concerned and obviously concerned about potential for violence, and concerned, you can hear it in her voice, about suffering from we refer to as Ye's law. She doesn't want to end up suffering from this endorsing Fuentes and this Soy Goying, this anti-Jew sentiment. So she's trying to say, hey, the people out there that are really hardcore, they're fake. The people out there that are really hardcore and they really want to get the Jews, they're not real. We need to be very slow and careful and quiet about this. And of course, that's in keeping with her being a female as well. But I'm sure it won't be lost on you all that we don't have to be slow and quiet and conceal any of this. None of it. We can be loud and boisterous and successful as we are with this. This doesn't lead to immoral violence. It could lead, if the context created it, to moral violence, but it could never lead to immoral violence. Lily is concerned of immoral violence. What if a follower of hers decides to go shoot up a mosque or shoot up a synagogue? And then all of the attention is going to come. So she's saying, let's just take it easy. I want you to listen to this anti-Jew, this shadow Jew, this soy goy. He's not Jewish, I don't think. Although, you know what, to be honest, I don't know whether he's Jewish or not. Perhaps like so many of the other self-hating Jews in their circles, or if they're maybe they're not self-hating. Maybe they're just Mossad. I don't know. But maybe he's like one of them. But he's going to talk in a moment.
And the martyrs are going to get taken out. The people at the front lines, they'll be made an example of before it's time. So I think everybody just needs to stay hopeful. Like, people are waking up, but just don't jump the gun, right? Because you don't want to fall into a trap. And I just see the way things are going right now. It seems like a big setup.
So jump the gun with regard to what? These are generalized fears that she's trying to articulate.
But yeah, I think people should be not black pilling. It's looking good.
Black pilling, she was saying, in other words, depressing. It's like they all lose the ability to speak English. I mean, they all imitate the dumbest people in their midst. And often it's black content creators that they will laud and they will celebrate and they will appear with, who out of their options are the dumbest ones. And they're like, what do you call it? Okay, that's what we'll call it. I just forget all of these English words. I'll just say black pill, white pill, all of these different things. It's one thing to throw it in as a secondary. It's another thing to get rid of like 20 words out of your vocabulary or more. But let's go ahead and hear the response now. So she's sharing this generalized fear. It's depressing. Why did she say it's depressing? Because before her talking now and throughout this space, what were they all saying? Jews have ultimate supreme power. They know everything. They control everything. All of internet security runs through Israel. All of telecommunications runs through Israel. So it's this, they know all, they have all, they're all powerful, they're omniscient, they're omnipotent. And they're ubiquitous, omnipresent, to stick with the parallelism. They're omnipresent. And so she's feeling the need to say, it's not black pill. Let's not be black pilled. Let's not be depressed about it. There is some hope. This was one of the things I argued about these anti-Jews all the time. Argue with them. I argue at meetings, argue at speeches, that one of the many reasons why being an anti-Jew is detrimental is this idea that there's no hope. At the end of the day, there is no hope. I would interrupt these people in this bizarre accounting of Jewish power and knowledge and et cetera and control. And I would interrupt them and say, okay, well, what can be done against all that? And I would literally do that intentionally. And they would go, look at me like, are you insane? What are you going to try to do? There's nothing you can do. There's nothing. I cannot think of a view that would be more valuable for Israel or China to push in America, or anti-white Jews in America who wouldn't want white people to become a power block and have an identity. That would be the ultimate view you would want to communicate to them. There is no hope. The Jews, and then what they'll say is like almost like a platitude, a meaningless lip service. Oh, there's hope. There's always hope. Except you just got done talking for 45 minutes about how the Jews print everything, they broadcast everything, they control all the police forces, they control all of the legislators, they control the governors, and now you say, but there's always hope at the end. Bullshit. You've just communicated positions and seemingly with data to prove that it is indeed the case. Because you look at people having success, you can't prove that the particular Jew who is a governor or the 5 Jews who work around the governor all making 6 figures are anti-white. You can prove that they're Jews, and that by working with the strategy of individual well-being by way of group well-being, that they achieve wonderful achievements, that you can prove that. But you've told me that since they're there, they control the governor, and therefore the governor is going to use the power of the state, the National Guard, the state police, the different departments of the state government to come after me and to come after us and to come after our land holdings. So yeah, it's pretty fucking depressing. And you are left with the idea that nothing can be done. So, by the way, before we listen to the last little bit of this, I'm going to read from Specimen 128, who gave a testimonial just 2 weeks ago. He wrote this: "Thank you, Jason, for getting me out of the Ant-Nat content loop." So, Ant-Nat, antique nationalists, these are Jew haters, people who hate Jews, who also have a fetish about the Nazis. He says, "I was doxxed at Charlottesville." I want you to pay close attention to this, because you're looking at Lily Gaddis going into it. And now with this testimonial 2 weeks ago, which is roughly the time that Lily Gaddis went into it. Stop talking to me, was not promoting our interview. So roughly at the exact same time, Lily Gaddis is going into it, Specimen 128, and this is on YouTube, one of the comments under my videos, one of my recent videos. I was doxxed at Charlottesville and thought my life was never going to recover. But since then, I got my master's degree and I started my first real job as a informatician. I will design an etymology app that will be used to teach school children about insects. You gave me, Jason, and white positivity, go free dialogic. You gave me the tool to be able to coexist with vagues at work, vagues at school every day while remaining true to my principles. Longue vie Jason. Long live Jason in French. So, somebody who came out of and benefited out of this idiocy, somebody going in.
Well, and that trap, for what it's worth, I mean, I think that manifests itself in a number of different ways. And one of the big ones, oh, sorry. Somebody trying to jump in?
So, you hear what this guy's doing now. She gave this generalized warning. Let's not be too loud about the Jews, right? Because if she suspects that the people who are too loud about the Jews are the ones who are going to be set up, and then everybody's going to take the blame for what they end up doing or what's done in their name. These are generalized concerns because she understands, without knowing Ye's law, that this is what happens to you. Of course, if you take on a group of human beings that a percentage of which, not all of them, but a percentage of which work for their own well-being by way of their people's well-being, which is a moral and beautiful thing to do. If you decide you're going to slander their people, they're coming after you. They don't even have to be anti-white to come after you. Does that make sense? So you can literally incite the ire of Jews who aren't anti-white, maybe Jews who have billions of dollars, maybe Jews who have millions of dollars. You can incite their wrath, even though they're not anti-white, by saying that their people is evil, that their whole people have to be deprived of everything that they own, that they have to be caps on if they're allowed to be in government or support government or vote or support or to be able to own businesses and all of this sort of thing. You can't even imagine something dumber. At least I can't. I mean, that is literally like saying we're on the literal battlefield. And I'm saying there's the enemy flag. There's our victimizer's flag. We've got to get that flag. We've got to get that flag. And here is a path that the enemy, the victimizer, doesn't even know exists. They don't know it exists. It's all shrubbery and it's rocks. And here I have camo that looks like shrubbery and rock. They won't even know that you're there. We can go right up this path and get the enemy, the victimizer flag. And then some absolute Fuentesian tarred vegetable bitch runs up and says, no, the enemy has a machine gun nest over there. In fact, they've got 5 machine gun nests. Some of those nests aren't even aimed at us. They're trained other directions. But if we are really careful, we can make sure that those nests also machine gun us. when we try to make it up the hill to the flag. Are you nuts? I mean, every single one of you fucking losers. This is the head that has to be taken off. These usurping bastards. This would be the best you could do for the white race. I'm sure of it, Jason. If we're loud, if we make enough noise, we're loud enough, we're nasty enough, we can get not only the machine gun nests that are anti-white to aim at us, but we can get their machine gun nests that aren't anti-white to shoot at us as well. And if you don't do that, you must be working with them. I mean, if there isn't a better argument for this endeavor to be run by the Mossad, I don't know what it is. For God's sake, the white race is being chomped by anti-whites. Being absolutely chomped. And here she goes.
I think one of the big ones.
Oh, so here he goes. She was expressing the generalized fear, and he comes in and he wants to bring it back to the fear of the moment, the Jews controlling everything, and that we have to be aggressive. That's what he's trying to, in an NPR way, bring it back to. Just listen.
Lily is trying to trap us who are awakening to this reality. I think one of the big ones, Lily, is trying to trap us who are, for what it's worth,
fall into a trap. And I just see the way things are going right now. It seems like a big setup. But yeah, I think people should be not blackpilling. It's looking good.
Well, and that trap, for what it's worth, I mean, I think that manifests itself in a number of different ways. And one of the big ones, oh, sorry. Somebody trying to jump in? I think one of the big ones, Lily, is trying to trap us who are awakening to this reality by being able to create us as straw men.
So he obviously is, he's a midwit trying to feign education, intelligence beyond his ability. And he just spoke in a vegetable-like way. But what he's trying to say is they are making us look bad. They are making us look bad. So we've just got to go with telling the truth.
And to have us be essentially caricatures of that which is kind of described as evil, let's just say loosely. And what I mean by that is I don't think it's productive.
Kind of describing us as evil. Let's just use that word loosely. Come on with your affected erudition, bitch. Just say what you want to. You're trying to make people believe that you're brighter than you are. And it's painfully obvious to everybody who's brighter than you.
To go around saying, I have a hatred towards individuals because of X, Y, or Z, based on these genetic pieces of them, etc.
Based on these genetic pieces of them, etc.
It just makes us look a little bit unhinged, hateful, those kind of things.
You are unhinged and hateful. There is no argument that's anti-Jew on the basis of these people's birth that isn't unhinged and hateful.
And I do think that that's a huge trap, and we've seen it firsthand because as the college campuses started to flare up with anti-Israeli sentiments.
And by the way, these people, they take that and they take energy elsewhere. Like they were after this, they were talking about like momentum for Rand Paul and Dennis Kucinich that is in libertarian circles and trying to co-opt it as their own, saying, at least for an argument, this is energy that is people that we are parallel to. And so this is where the great energy is. This is why when I saw that, I was like, this looks like an Israeli operation. It wasn't just that either. There were several other veins of socio-political momentum or angst or anger with the way things that are taking place and unfolding in our countries, that these people artfully claim as parallel and practically the same, fellow travelers. So you see, if you come with us, this anti-Jew soy goy crowd, if you come with us, then you are parallel to these other movements that are kind of just like us. And we're all together kind of coming to the same ideas and the same anger. And it's all of these specious arguments. And that's exactly what they are. They're specious. They have a veneer of a patina of legitimacy. But all you have to do is just barely peek under the claim to see that it's false. But the issue is that midwits are not capable of doing that. Most midwits are not even capable of it. So I immediately thought, this is a psyop. This is a psychological operation, or at least the arguments of a psyop. And so maybe it's being initiated by anti-whites in the U.S., private entities, quasi-public, private government entities, but also maybe Israeli entities. Because if you think about it, Israel and the Israelis, they need America to have their back. Who do you think? Nobody's talking about it yet out in the everywhere else that you listen to. But since you're listening to me, I will throw you a tad bit of information that if you just lock it down and wait, you'll be hearing about it in the near future. The content creators in the near future will be complaining about America having to restockpile the Israelis for all of the weapons they used. Bullets, bombs, the most expensive, laser-guided dumb bombs, bunker-busting bombs, white phosphorus, the modern equivalent of napalm, a lot of things, bullets, guns, tanks, parts. You watch, all of it the American taxpayer will pay for and will ship over to the Israelis after they're done with their conflicts, when they think they've gone far enough. So you have a population, a white population in America, that if the white population in America started to say to itself, hey, we are a people, and hey, it doesn't benefit us to be involved in underwriting every Israeli aggression. It's one thing. I think white people in America most white people in America would be fine with thinking that Israel is an ally, and that if somebody invaded Israel, America would fight along the side of Israel. But the vast majority of white people in America don't like underwriting Israeli aggression. That's why the preachers, even in the Bible Belt, all white people out there, even in the Bible Belt, they have to keep hammering and browbeating the congregation with, these are God's people. We have to keep funding their murder and slaughter of their neighbors. We have to keep doing it. We have to keep providing them with the weaponry and the money and the food and the medicine and the information and the tech and the everything. They have to keep browbeating. They wouldn't say it if they didn't have to. So that's why it's a constant mantra. Most white people, mark my words, most white people in America would be fine with thinking about Israel like the UK. Somebody invades, we will go help. But white people are just as unhappy underwriting Israel's aggression as they would be underwriting the United Kingdom's aggression. Like, oh, the United Kingdom is bombing the living shit out of some like sub-state in Somalia. And America's like, well, we'll provide the busting bombs. No, white people would say, what? No. So if you think about it, the group of people on planet Earth that need white people to not become a cohesive tribe more than anyone else is the Israelis. Maybe a very close second, or maybe they trade space every now and again between first and second, is the communist Chinese. Maybe. So if governments are willing to spend all their money, use all their resources, all their human capital, killing and dying for the other things at the top of that national list, I wonder how much effort they would put into something at the very top, like preventing the white race from becoming a coherent tribe of people. If I had to put money down, I would say, especially right now, as Israel is cleaning up its western and northern borders with a threat of just piss-ass poor weapons, missiles from Yemen, and potentially, but very unlikely, something from Iran, that they need more than any country on planet Earth, the white race, to remain selfish individualists. And talking about them and demonizing them is the best way to get there. Maybe in the next couple months, maybe next year, the communist Chinese will be more aggressive in preventing us from becoming a coherent people. But there's no doubt that it's in the interests of the Israelis to prevent us from becoming a coherent whole. And where do you see a coherent white race coming out of a multiracial, populated by self-hating Jews? At least it appears that way as well. Content creators and viewers that are composed of selfishly individualistic white people that express and articulate arguments that keep you a selfish individualist. But they want to talk they're all into the conspiracies. They're all into isn't it amazing how amazing the Israelis are that they could bomb the pagers and the walkie-talkies. But this, somehow, no. Something that is more salient and obviously needed to be done than anything else. No, they would never do that.
What did we see happen nationwide? College campuses and colleges themselves saying, hey, we're going to put in rules and regulations that basically, that will, I don't want to use the term crucify, but we'll go after people that are committing quote unquote hate speech or anti-Semitic speech.
And here you have people also, just like you heard there, hate speech, anti-Semitic speech, using the language that anti-white victimizers would want us to use. You know who else would want us to use that language to prevent us from becoming a people? Israelis.
Which was basically then loosely defined.
And I'm not saying it's the Israelis. I'm just pointing out a logical reality that they would absolutely want that.
Is anything that is Israeli interests. And my point is that they're going to use this awakening every way that they can to continue to.
So what they're talking about there, this awakening that they're talking about, like Lily's, is awakening to the Jews are the ultimate evil, and that if they are removed, then everything is daisies and roses.
Monopolize power. And oftentimes that's going to be by using our rejection.
Wait a second.
Use the term crucify, but we'll go after people that are committing quote unquote hate speech or anti-Semitic speech, which was basically then loosely defined as anything that is Israeli interests. And my point is that they're going to use this awakening every way that they can to continue to monopolize power. And
okay, monopolize power, and you hear that a lot from the anti-Jews. They have power, and they is the Jews. Again, what you are observing is the success of having a tribe, having a people. That is not wrong or immoral. That is moral and beautiful and works.
Oftentimes that's going to be by using our.
And he just said oftentimes. For that alone, metaphorically, he should be set on fire and metaphorically and fed to wild dogs. That is the ultimate sin. That is the ultimate sin. He just said worse than everything else he has said so far and everything they're doing. He said oftentimes.
our rejection of their nefarious behaviors and actions, and like a jujitsu person, using that momentum that we create against us. So we need to be really
Like a jujitsu person.
thoughtful in how they might do that. We need to make sure to avoid that. And
Okay, we have to be really thoughtful in how they might do that. And we have to.
that's why I think making sure that we're always very peaceful. And
You're always very peaceful when we're saying that all Jews are born evil and nefarious and should be removed from our societies.
how we discuss these things, very professional, very polished. And
It's always professional and polished when you say that people on the basis of their birth are evil and should be removed from society. They should be divested of all of their wealth and the businesses that they own. It's always very peaceful, professional, and polished when you say these sorts of things.
very informed is one of the most important pieces of this whole thing. But Lily, you going out there and sharing these messages in the way that you do to the tens, hundreds of thousands of people, maybe millions of people that listen to your message, just know that
That's what they were after. That is what they were after.
you're an additional conduit, right? You're an additional path that people hear some of the things that you say, they maybe start looking into them, and then they find themselves in perhaps a space like the one that we're holding right now. And for that, I just can't thank you enough.
So then they'll be in a space like ours where we're all talking about how all Jews are born evil.
For kind of being an advocate for our cause in the way that you are. And, Lucas Gage said, if everybody just does that which is within their power, right? Everybody's got a different platform. They've got a different approach. They've got a different voice and different skill sets. And if we all just do our piece of the puzzle, it's going to make a massive difference.
No, that's absolutely
No, it's not.
the case. And everybody,
The difference it'll make is it will undermine genuine white well-being. That's the difference that it makes.
everybody's doing their little part, and I think it's positive. But yeah, thank you so much for hosting this. I really appreciate you bringing me on.
Everybody's doing their little part, and she thinks it's positive. What do you all think? Let's celebrate Specimen 128. I read his wonderful testimonial earlier, and there are going to be many people who are going to read that and come to an awareness of the work that we are doing here. And they, too, are going to improve themselves and their lives, having a positive approach on themselves, their lives, and how we can effectuate a white positive outcome. Let's give it up for Specimen 128. Well done. Let's get into these, ladies and gentlemen. Who's over here rocking it out of the park? You know who you got to celebrate. It's one of our very best, Anglo-Saxon and WG. 1.6 thousand likes, almost 100 replies and counting under a video of Black Conservative Perspective. That's his almost 2,000 members of this guy's Black Conservative Perspectives audience saying absolutely sick of this anti-white regime. Imagine that. Imagine the difference, really, if you will. Somebody has got to write this in the sky. The difference between uniting people of different races in their anger, their recognition of anti-whiteism, the harm anti-whiteism does, and their rejection of anti-whiteism, versus uniting people of different races in hating Jews. Look at the difference in that. Please, somebody write that down. Write that down. We got to talk about that again. Look, we unite people of different races against anti-whiteism. They unite people of different races against Jews. I wonder who's the representative of the white race. Give it up for Anglo-Saxon. He's one of our great swashbucklers doing it and making it happen. Here he is again. Quadruple 07s to him. 20 plus replies. Over 300 likes from Devin Gibson's audience. 300 plus people and a heart from Devin Gibson himself. Anglo-Saxon is a magic, he's a wizard, he's a magic worker. Who else is ready to move past this disastrous anti-white regime? Look at that, the work he did. What a swashbuckler. Here we have Anglo-Saxon on WG continuing to rock out. How many members of Salty Crackers audience, how many of them gave likes and replies to this? Who else is tired of living under this disastrous anti-white regime? Almost 1,500 people in Salty Crackers audience Almost 40 replies. Give it up. Big salutes for this hero. He just can't be stopped. Here's another hero that can't be stopped. Cool Papa J Magic over on Freedom Radio. He writes, many conservatives out there saying how incompletely this is being handled. Absolutely incompetently, he says. Is being handled. Absolutely not incompetence. It's anti-whiteism. Brilliant. Giving all that money to the border crossers, as well as her pledge to send well over 100 million to Lebanon the very next day, was not tone deaf. God, I hate it's all girls who do this. It's all like, that's not a good look. That's tone deaf. No, it's anti-whiteism, bitches of both sexes. It was a deliberate statement, writes the man. Cool Papa J Magic, big salutes. How many people in Freedom Radio agreed with that, against the opinion of Freedom Radio? Over 300 members of their audience, with 16 replies and counting. And the reply right under it, saying in response to Cool Papa J Magic, facts. It's not tone deaf, it's not incompetence, it's anti-whiteism. Let's keep rolling with this hero. Inclusivity is just another euphemism to cover anti-whiteism. How many people in this audience? Over 500 with 8 replies. It's Mark Dice's audience. We know we got King Dice there, and you got one of the epic special warfare operating swashbucklers. Cool Papa making it work. He's back again. Racist is just one of many anti-white slurs, and you see how he puts it properly in quotes. It's not real. Anti-white slurs, meaning not anti-white enough. Brilliantly written. By racism, they ultimately mean white people existing at all. Almost 200 likes from Matt Walsh's audience. Give it up for the cool, the Papa, the J, the Magic. Still with Matt Walsh. Nearly 200 people in Matt Walsh's audience by the time we took this screenshot, saying that they like this statement from Cool. It's not DEI, again, in quotes, brilliant. It's anti-whiteism. Calling this a DEI craze minimizes what we're being put through. Anti-whiteism has been the dominant social morality since long before any of us were born. Brilliant facts and dialogic, my brother. Dialectic. And it's not going to go away when those 3 letters do go away. The dialectical power of the Cool Papa J Magic. Unparalleled. Absolutely. And you notice, isn't it interesting? The Daily Wire, a product of Ben Shapiro, a Israel firster, and maybe potentially a product of Israel, orders that anti-whiteism not be used on the platform. Maybe it is an Israeli operation. Kind of an odd connection there, don't you think? Matt Walsh using anti-whiteism every day, and all of a sudden, no more using anti-whiteism anywhere? Almost as if the Israelis don't want the white race coming together as a single unified people in America. Or not even the totality of us, but a functional number of us that can then push back, that can then say to the rest of the white race, is it good to keep serving Israel? Kind of like that's evidence, isn't it? No way that Matt Walsh would just suddenly and abruptly stop using anti-whiteism, as useful and definitive as it is. Again on Matt Walsh, the Cool gets over 300 audience members giving a like to, yep, anti-whiteism is the legal system. In the legal system, it's everywhere. Geniusly written. Here we have full whites well-being. And this is on a video, under a video of the war on white, called the War on White America. Take a look at this. For White Well-Being says, now there is an honest title. It's been that way for decades, folks. thank you for opposing anti-whiteism. How many people over there? 121 of the audience members there, 7 replies, all saying absolutely, it's so true. Big salutes for white well-being. And let's keep it going for Will. For Will, fit and healthy. Yes, this is 100% anti-whiteism on a global scale. How many did he get giving a like to that? 233 people. You put those numbers together of the audience under the video, The War on White America. Well done to these swashbuckling heroes. Make sure they feel the weight of the crowns that you set on their heads and the gems that you scatter before their feet. Here we have Hans de Skipper coming in on Twitter Boss. How many of Twitter Boss's audience did Hans de Skipper get to give a view and likes and retweets? Thousands. 14.5 thousand views, hundreds and hundreds of hearts and retweets. What did Hans de Skipper write here underneath Twitter Boss? Stolen land is just an anti-white pretext for victimizing white people. Brilliantly written. Put stolen land as a mean pathogen. We put mean pathogens in quotes. They're not real. They are tools that are used to harm us. It's never applied to the non-whites who conquered previous peoples because anti-whites don't have principles. Brilliant. Making whites atone for grievances they were not making whites atone for grievances they were not personally responsible for is immoral. Let's give it up for Hans. Let's see Hans return to the winner's circle, the swashbuckling commander circle, many more times as we move forward. Well done, my champion. Here we have John G. John G is, remember the man with the greatest handwriting on planet Earth? The best print handwriting on Earth. Here he is, IRL again. Take a look at the stickers, ladies and gentlemen. People are going to find, isn't this beautiful? Holy moly, that's a beautiful sticker. Give it up for John G. Swashing, and look at how beautiful that sticker is. People will stop to read that. Oh, and they'll say nowhiteguilt.org. I'll go find out what that's all about. Let's keep it going as the audience takes a breath and comes back for us there. And we got another John G. Look at this. Holy moly. John G is wallpaper in the world. Look at it, ladies and gentlemen. He's showing up everywhere. Anti-white is not all right. NoWhiteGuilt.org. I love it. Anti-white. Now let the news pick that up. Let a person pick this up and then go meet you at work and have a conversation. When you said it's okay to be white, when you said white lives matter, they very easily could manipulate that into euphemisms of Nazi slogans. Of course, it's all right to be white. It's just not all right to be a racist. Let them pick this up. Anti-white is not all right. Let them defend that it's all right to be anti-white. Oh, the genius of the work we do here, ladies and gentlemen. Malone LeVay over here on Matt Walsh, the great champion. Rick. He says, Pauline will have my vote in the upcoming, maybe this is a Pauline video. Have my vote in the upcoming election as she isn't afraid to address the growing anti-whiteism in the country. Pauline for PM. How many of this legitimate political party in Australia? Nearly 500 of them absolutely agreed with that. And what did this contain from the great Malone LeVay? This most powerful of all concepts, the concept that Israel, potentially, through Ben Shapiro, potentially, ordered Matt Walsh to stop using, potentially, anti-whiteism. Here we have, this is NWG Clips, the hero, over there on Instagram, 14,000 views. Give it up for this hero. In so many iterations, this champion adds another feather to his cap. 14,000 views. He's not done on Instagram this week. How about 17,000 views on Instagram? On this, put them together, That is what he's pulling in 1 week. Only, not even the totality, but 2 of the biggest on Instagram. Give it up for No White Guilt clips. Big love to that hero, Commander Swashbuckler. Here we have Homeless Bear, and a special debt of gratitude to Homeless Bear. Give it up for this comment, but also give it up for Homeless Bear. You were the one who spoke up when the Fuentesian was trying to give credit to Fuentes, to Lil Nicky, when in conversation with Lily Gaddis over who admonishes white people to become a people. And Homeless Bear said, no, it's not Nick Fuentes, it's No White Guilt, Jason Kuna, every single week, bitches. Let's give it up for Homeless Bear. On top of that, he's over there on, is this AJ, is it Torville? He got 10.8, so 11,000 views of this guy's audience. Hundreds of likes and retweets. And what did Homeless Bear write? Exactly. Woke, in quotes, means anti-white. Even when they are promoting deranged sexuality for children or over-the-top feminism, etc., it's all about white erasing the societal norms of Western kind. Brilliant dialectic, my brother, brilliant. They hate whites and everything we do. And then the epic meme, what if I told you it's not woke, it's anti-white? Oh my God, I love it. Keep it going in applause for the great Homeless Bear. What a victory. Homeless Bear, again, another victory. This is huge. Hundreds and hundreds of likes and retweets. How many views did he get with his comment under Alessandro Palumbo? Is that what it is? Palumbo. How many? 75,000 people under Alessandro's tweet saw this. There's only one reason. White people. It's the Western biospirit. The West exists wherever Western kind exists. Numerical courage. Brilliant. You've got concepts you've used there. You've got the dialectic perfectly used there. These swashbuckling heroes, I could be absorbed by the ether tomorrow, and these swashbuckling heroes are going to be able to go on reclaiming the destiny, empowering our people forevermore. Homeless Bear, he's not done this week under I am yes, you are no. 13,000 views, hundreds of likes and retweets. This agenda is white erasure. And in this perfect meme here, white erasure is the instigating attempt to and or act of eliminating white history, culture, values, religion, monuments, people, etc. You gotta love it. And here is our OT leader himself, the unstoppable, the one and only biospirit of the West. Meanwhile, at a media mogul meeting, how many people saw this? This was under I am yes. 30,000 people saw this meme. You can see it here. We must promote white erasure. Our goal is white erasure. Then who maintains our civilization? Maintains. And it has nowhiteguilt.org. Brilliant. Hundreds of likes and retweets. Give it up for the great West. The great Westman West. Beautifully done, brother. And here on Matt Walsh, the White Baron, Eric. If this is, or this might be Pauline again. Actually, it is Pauline again. Who else is sick and tired of having a government that has no intention on doing anything for us, the founding stock of the country? 300, nearly 300 and climbing. Give it up for this hero. Down under. We love it. Great swashbuckling. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the swashbuckling for this week. Be a part of it next week. Become one of the swashbuckling special warfare operators. And we'll be right back. Oh, I love it. I love it. The room is finally, the office is finally cooling down. Getting hot these days.